What's up, everybody? Welcome into a new episode of the Rapala Collegiate Bass Podcast. Looking forward to the Association of Collegiate Anglers 21st Collegiate Bass Fishing Championship presented by Bass Pro Shops coming up here very soon at Pickwick Lake in Florence, Alabama, taking place on Thursday and Friday. Our guests today are Clayton, Ellis, and Chandler Howell from top 25 ranked Blue Mountain Christian University. The last time the ACA was at Pickwick Lake, just over a year ago for the Pickwick Slam. That during the spring of the year. This about a month and a half later. We're going to talk to them as they got the win back then and know a lot about this fishery, how it's setting up, what they think it's going to take to win, and much more. So Clayton, we'll bring you in for the first question here real quick. Summertime conditions, early summertime conditions, late spring. Talk about how the lake's looking in terms of is it high, is it low, about normal, maybe current flow, things like that. Just how's the fishery setting up on Pickwick and the Tennessee River coming into the ACA's National Championship event?
Man, this is probably the weirdest spring that I've been around for. I mean, there hasn't been any current ran in months, and the fish are doing things that they've never done before. And it's a tough fishery, but it's still going to be crazy. It's still going to take a lot of weights. It's still going to be really high weights, and there's going to be a lot of guys catch them. But I think there might be people catch them interesting ways. The water's been, it'll get high and then it'll get back lower, but they're not. It's not like they're, sucking the bottom out of it, pulling current really strong. It's been pretty stagnant. It's been a really weird spring.
Added to that, something else maybe that people listening are going to want to know once they get out there, whether it's through official practice or even the event, grass and hydrilla. Different parts of the lake have different things going on under the water and what's prevalent there in terms of fish holding structure. Talk a little bit about maybe, I know we've seen events later in the summer on other trails over the last couple of years where it's matted to the top and there's grass all up and down the river. For us, I feel like this time of year definitely hasn't normally topped out, and sometimes it's really sparse, and if you can find that little secret juice, it's a bit of an advantage in a place where fish are holding. Chandler, speak to any vegetation, grass that may be up and down the Pickwick Lake.
Well, unfortunately, the last couple of years, Pickwick has really been at a disadvantage in the area of grass and cover such as that. But as far as I know, I can't think of anywhere off the top of my head right now that has grass on it. Your typical grass stuff, it's just not happened the last couple of years. I don't know what's happened to it. I'm sure everybody's heard theories of what's going on, but I don't feel like, somebody will find some grass somewhere, but I don't feel like that's going to be too much of a major player for most people in the tournament.
Yeah, so if it's not the grass, we know there's lots of ledges, offshore structure, some sneaky secondary things. This time of year, I feel like this is now I've been with Carrico for almost 10 years. It's probably about the 8th or 9th championship and 6th or so at Pickwick that I've had the privilege of helping cover. And when we're there, you always think Tennessee River, summer, deep ledges, mega schools. And I feel like during this event, anyways, and the timing of it, it's always that weekend before Memorial Day, or couple weekdays before Memorial Day weekend. The fish aren't always quite as far out there as you think they're going to be. Clayton, talk a little bit about that and maybe what you've seen in years past in that transition, as they're probably mostly all going to be done spawning thereabout by the time we're there, but they're not all going to be out in those textbook Tennessee River deep summer ledge spots. Just kind of talk about that. If that made any sense, if I need to clarify it, ask me, but speak to that transition or lack thereof maybe is they're not quite as far out as one might expect.
Really what I've noticed is like different parts of the lake, the fish are doing different things. You can run 10 miles and the fish in that area be in a completely different stage, and it's kind of been that way all spring. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be some guys find some mega schools. There's going to be guys find good schools in practice that are absolutely gone by the tournament just because the lake's been getting so much pressure and there's a distinct lack of current. So it's going to be all over. The population's not what it once was in some of those championships. So whereas in some of those championships, there may have been 40 schools of 100 to 200 fish. This one, there may be 3 or 4 schools of that caliber, and those fish are going to get divided up and moved around. And it's just going to be really interesting. There's going to be guys catch them, from dam to dam and shallow to deep. It's going to be, there's going to be boats everywhere, and there's just a couple fish everywhere. There's no real major congregations from what I've seen.
Yeah, Chandler, talk to that a little bit as Clayton's hinting at how the fish might set up on those offshore spots. Speak to finding groups of fish, finding maybe pods or smaller segments of those fish, or even targeting individual fish now as you're out there with, say, live scope, scanning these areas. When y'all go to break it down, whether it's in practice or on a tournament day, and practice will probably dictate what you're going to do on the tournament day, but talk a little bit about maybe a game plan you have at least in your head. If you're going to go play that deep game, how might you target the mega school versus trying to find smaller groups? Obviously, you want to find stuff no one else has had, but also figuring out maybe individual fish. How does that play into what you're looking for underwater when you're trying to find the winning pattern?
Yeah, so going back to the question that you asked earlier about the current, like Clayton said, there hasn't been much current rolling through. So I think that's going to make it harder for those, there will be some big mega schools that do set up, but I don't think you're going to have a bunch of those schools that set up across the lake. I just don't think it's going to work out that way without any current. So I think really the big thing, we might do is instead of looking for those big schools, kind of, maybe swapping and looking for some of them that might be more busted up. Because there's so many boats that are going to be out there practicing, there's always going to be more than one person that finds everything. So everything gets busted up, just like any college. Like that's the way most people think. So yeah, I think it's really going to be one this year. Probably you'll have some. Whoever wins will catch some out deep and some up shallow. I think. I don't think it's going to be anything that they sit in one spot all day and just wear them out and catch their bag in one place.
Let's talk a little bit about the shallow, because it's intriguing looking back at years past. I edit the TV show, and so I've seen some of the footage and what some of the teams are doing over the years, and those, at least in years past, maybe weren't as consistent. You could slip up there and wear on them for 20 pounds on the first day, but on the second day, you really have a heck of a time catching 8 or 12 pounds. Talk a little bit, Clayton, about the areas that an angler might be looking for if they do go up shallow. You said there's not maybe a lot of vegetation that leaves some timber, some rock, maybe some flooded trees and things based on water levels back in some of these creek arms and whatnot. Speak to what an angler might look for or find when they go up shallow at Pickwick Lake.
I mean, there's the biggest deal, I think, which you just touched on too. Sometimes in these the tournaments, somebody will go and wear them out shallow one day and not do great the next. I think that touches on that. The forage spawn's going on this time of year, and with whether it be brim beds or shad spawn, those things are just so hit or miss. You can pull up and really tear them up, and then next day there not be a thing there. So I think that's going to play a role. I think there's going to be people fishing isolated cover, maybe even docks or trees like you mentioned. Really depends on what they do with the water level. They have 5 days now, so it may come up 2 or 3 feet, they may drop it 2 or 3 feet. You never have a clue what they're going to do. So it's just going to dictate what they do with the water the next few days, whether they pull current or not, and if there is a shad spawn still left, and how many brim are actually on the bed to fish for bass eating those. It's just going to be a toss-up, really.
Been talking about the current a lot, or the lack thereof in some cases. Chandler, obviously that affects how the fish set up. It affects a lot of things. In terms of bait presentations, how does that sway what you might have tied on? If they're moving current, maybe the fish are more active to feed. You're moving faster paced stuff. If the current's not happening, downsizing, fishing slower. Kind of speak to that, and if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong and explain how you might break it down.
Really, I don't know that we really make too many different changes depending on, how much water is moving, other than, you might go to a heavier head or something to get it down there a little bit faster. But you can present your bait a different way to them depending on how much current there is, but that has more to do with, kind of the drag on the bait rather than actually doing something specifically yourself.
Before we stop talking about fishing and talk about the best pro shop school of the year presented by Abu Garcia, I want to ask each of you guys, we'll go Clayton first, and then Chandler, you can answer the same question when he's done. Target weight, maybe what you're looking to catch each day to be in contention or the top 10, and ultimately what you think it might take to win the whole event. As I'm going to kind of wing it here off the top of my head, but I want to say Dylan and Carter had I think they had a little over 50 pounds for 2 days the last time we were there during the summer, and several other teams there in the top 5, top 10 had over 40 for 2 days. So 2-day average of 20 to 23 pounds has always definitely had you in contention. Answer that, follow it up with what you think maybe y'all would be trying to aim for to be in that top 10, top 20, and if you want to win, what might that take? Clayton, you could go first.
The way it's been going this spring, it seems like if you have 22 to 24 pounds a day, you're going to be really tough. Anywhere in those mid to high 40s in a 2-day range is going to be you. I would be willing to bet you'd be in the top 3, maybe even winning. I think be around the top 10. Anything, I don't think weights are going to drop off that much. I think it's going to take between 39 and 41 pounds or so to being 10th. If it's really stingy, maybe 37 or 38, but I don't think we're going to have those crazy, 25 a day or 30-pound bags mixed in. I think it's just going to be, somebody might have a consistent 23 a day, and that's going to be really hard to beat.
Chandler, go ahead and answer the same question. Add your thoughts if it's the same as what Clayton's throwing out, or maybe you think it's a little different.
I agree with what Clayton's saying. I'm going to say it's that 23 pounds a day is going to be pretty stout. I think we just we don't really have the population that we used to, especially of big fish. All eyes were on Pickwick last winter. Really, you had so many 30-pound bags weighed in, and just every tournament it seems like if you had 31 pounds, then you were probably not going to win, and you just knew that going in. But since then, like this winter, there were still some good weights. There were a couple 30 bags weighed in, but I think that population of the big fish is either non-existent or just nobody's been able to find them as well as we could last winter. So I think that 23-pound mark, that'll be 23 a day, that'll probably be pretty stout.
We're talking with Clayton, Ellis, and Chandler Howell from top 25 ranked Blue Mountain Christian University. They're actually 6th to be exact. We're going to talk about that now coming up. Clayton, this season so far, one of the better in history that Blue Mountain's been able to put together. Being a part of this group, making this run, talk about the season so far to this point as y'all been able to obviously stack up a lot of success to be there in the top 10, knocking on the door of the top 5.
Well, this is only the end of my second year, but one thing I've definitely noticed this year over last year is the team's communicating really well. We're working well together. Everybody comes in at the end of the day, and everybody's pretty willing to share, and we just go about every day of practice and break down a lake an area at a time and a person at a time rather than everybody fishing on their own. And I really think that helps. You get more boats in the top 5-10% of the tournament when everybody can work together. It's hard to break down these huge fisheries, but when you work together, you can take it a piece at a time and really figure out what the fish are doing.
And to be able to have that success, ultimately you still got to go out there and catch the fish. Chandler, talk about that, whether it's yourselves doing well or seeing your teammates have success just across the country as y'all travel all over the place. To be in 6th place, obviously had, done well at just about every stop to be at that point. Talk about seeing your teammates going out and having success, returning back to weigh-in with those fish.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool. We're all there's a lot of us that are from Mississippi. We have some people from Alabama, Texas, Tennessee, Arkansas. We've really been able to come together this year, and we've all gotten a lot closer. We've been a lot better communicating this year, so it makes it all that more sweet whenever we all do come in with a big bag, and we know that we all, had a little bit of a hand in helping everybody, figure stuff out and catch a good bag that day.
Mathematically, first place is probably out of the picture, but being able to move into that top 5, not out of the question, maybe even the top 3 to be awarded plaques at the end of the season. Clayton, talk a little bit about over the rest of this season here, Triple Points Collegiate Bass Fishing Championship presented by Bass Pro Shops. What do y'all need to accomplish to be able to move up in the rankings into that top 5 or potentially the top 3?
I think it goes right along what we've been doing all year, just being able to work together effectively. Nobody, in this tournament, maybe somebody does find one of those mega schools. We work together, split fish up, and, try and have as many boats at the top of those standings as possible instead of just maybe one. And do that throughout the rest of the year. These last few tournaments count for the year, and I definitely think we have the ability to move up and have a year. After last year was one of the worst years in our school, and this year, just to bounce back from that, the higher we can go, the better it would be.
Yeah, right now looking at it, doing a little mental math, top 3 not out of the question. Chandler, if y'all were able to finish the year and make that jump from 6th now into 3rd, I think that would ultimately be the best season in the history of the Blue Mountain Christian University fishing team. What would that mean, and what would that say about everything y'all accomplished this season?
I think I can speak for the whole team and say that if we could pull off a top 3 in School of the Year, that would be truly a blessing. We're not as big as most of the other schools that we fish against. We only have 12 members on our team. So for a smaller team like us to be able to compete that well and place that well against all the rest of them, that would really mean a lot to every one of us.
Appreciate the time today, guys. That'll wrap up our conversation with Clayton, Ellis, and Chandler Howell from 6th ranked Blue Mountain Christian University. Going to be there on hand competing at Pickwick Lake for the Collegiate Bass Fishing Championship presented by Bass Pro Shops. Guys, best of luck there, and thanks for taking the time today.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Kyle.